Welcome to the High Value Sales Show of Eversprint.com. I'm Malcolm Louie, the managing member of Eversprint, and today we're speaking with Mark Kummer, the president and CEO of Mid-America Logistics, a full-service logistics company. Welcome to the call, Mark.
Thank you.
Mark, you grew your company's revenue from $26.8 million in 2014 to $53.4 million in 2018, a 99% increase, and in 2018, you're going to hit around $116 million. But before we talk about how you grew your company so fast, can you briefly share what your company does beyond my quick intro and talk about how your company differs from the competition?
Yes. So we are a full-service trucking, logistics, and supply chain technology development firm. Effectively, we enable technology to move just-in-time shipments across North America. So by enabling technology and developing algorithms, we're able to match or optimize trucking, our asset-based trucking division, sourcing carrier capacity from logistics, and move truckload shipments from point A to B from any 2 points within North America.
And how would you say you differ from your competition?
It would definitely be from a technological standpoint and the fact that we're optimizing algorithms in and around just-in-time shipping industries, i.e. inbound manufacturing, highly perishable food products, pharmaceuticals, etc. Within those divisions, within those industry verticals, we're able to develop history, shipping patterns, even down to weather, traffic patterns based on time of day, etc., to optimize routing and costs tied back to how to move a shipment to optimize shipper supply chains. And it's really been focused around highly sensitive service areas and areas where typically commodity brokers and other transportation companies don't try to focus because they consider it more difficult or requiring a heavy investment.
So from the way you're able to apply your technology to help with the planning of the logistics side of things, does that mean that you are able to provide shipments that are more on time than your competition and or at lower cost?
Yes, absolutely. When we are optimizing how we route shipments, we break it down not only to a typical point A to B lane. We actually break it down based on time of year, time of day, based on historical traffic patterns, weather forecasts in the future. And by optimizing that and even tied back to gas diesel prices along routing, we're able to optimize whether it be cost and or delivery time. Typically both is what our clients are looking for.
Oh, fantastic. So at the end of the day, is your service also less expensive than your competition?
I would say it is within the side of the business we're on.
Right.
Typically, I hate to use the term "you get what you pay for," but for what we call, our shippers call from a slang standpoint, hot shipments, we're able to minimize those costs. And because service failures at the end, it's not just through the actual price that we're charging a client, it's through the elimination of service failures, which ultimately lead to claims or penalties for late shipments. That's where we're to their vendors. That's where we're optimizing. It's not only just from a price standpoint, which we do, but it's also from a service level standpoint, which ultimately is a much higher cost. The risk side of that is a much higher cost than the actual price of the shipment.
Yeah, definitely. You can essentially put a huge kink in their whole supply chain process if you don't deliver your goods on time.
Absolutely. And if you shut down a very large industrial manufacturing plant and let's say that they're running low on tier one supplier inventory, those shipments need to get there on time because the consequences can cost, tens of thousands of dollars a minute. So the ultimate cost is shutting down a manufacturing plant or not moving, essentially having a whole entire truckload of berries or flowers not deliver on time where they could spoil, which runs about $250,000 for a total loss on a truckload of flowers. So those are the areas that where you really achieve your savings is eliminating and mitigating risk.
Yeah, definitely. Now you doubled your business in 3 years from $27 million in 2014 to $53 million in 2017, and in 2018 you doubled it again. Can you share what the three biggest drivers that allowed you to double your sales not once, but twice since 2014?
Ultimately, it's talent. I mean, hiring the most experienced and the most knowledgeable people in the industry, I would say has been the biggest driver of that. When you bring in knowledge base and tech and developing our technology would be the second. Have those two components combined, the service sells itself at the end of the day. Typically, we start small with the client. Usually it's one or two shipments as a test bed or one or two regular lanes. From there, they understand how we differentiate ourselves in the market, and we actually deliver on what we promise, and that we are different than the 50,000 other transportation brokers in the market because we do things differently. Furthermore, by the fact that we run a just-in-time asset division, we take it from the perspective of a hotshot trucking company almost. It's embedded in our culture, and that's all shrouded around a culture of safety as well. So with all those things combined, it really provides a full service offering. Furthermore, we're actually very transparent with our clients too. We're very transparent even on our costing and the margins that we set, which also differentiates us in the market as well. Many clients don't do that. They're looking for, lots of our competitors ultimately just throw out a price based on the market. We want a long-term partnership with our clients, which means, listen, we're in a commodity market. Commodity prices are public. To try to hide that or try to mask it in some convoluted pricing scheme is naive. And that's one thing that I would say, not only because of our people and our technology, we're comfortable enough with our service that we're willing to be transparent about our costing and our margins as well. Right.
So just to recap, on my notes, I have the three biggest drivers for your sales success would be people and the talent that they have. That's number one. Number two, the technology that allows you to optimize your route, both for making timely deliveries and for minimizing your transportation and fuel costs. And the third one is just being transparent on your costing with your clients, since you're looking to have a long-term relationship with them.
And service as well. Our technology, we've gone out and built a multitude of different real-time tracking systems, and we're never going to lie to a client about where a truck is. We're never going to say a truck is broken down when it is not, which is a common little trick in this industry. We are fully transparent. If we do, in the unfortunate and unusual event that we do have a service failure or something that is running late that was a controllable instance, we're going to be transparent about it. It's important that we have a two-way, honest relationship with our clients, and we consider that, that is shrouded in the culture of this business.
Right. Got it. Can we go a little bit deeper into each of these three categories? You talked about having the best people with the best talent, the best experience. Can you share how you go about finding them and retaining them?
Absolutely. So every single one of our employees is tied to two different components. Number one is the actual performance of essentially controllable performance about how we transport goods. So in other words, if we have controllable events whereby our employees are doing everything they can to move something timely and safe from point A to B, that's an incentive that any operator or salesperson in this organization is tied to. The second component is tied to growth and margin. We have an uncapped commission structure, so we share in the earnings with our employees, which typically automatically attracts and kind of creates a natural recruiting cycle because word's gotten out in the market that we're not just another broker that only incents revenue. It's based on service, and it's based on profitability. And that's what protects our business model from potential losses and essentially hedges us in the market from losing money. So by incenting that service, that's a client driver, promotes a long-term relationship. And then on the profitability side, every single one of our employees has some sort of profitability component tied to them, and we don't cap it. It's not a fixed bonus. It's based on our growth. So there's really unlimited potential. And we mean what we say. And we're also very just like we're transparent with our clients, we're transparent with our employees. We don't sit in an executive room and come up with initiatives and roll them out. We actually have user groups or committees within our division. Anytime we have a policy change or a workflow change or anything else in our organization, we actually get the frontline team members who are involved with that, a select group. who will come in and provide their feedback too. So everyone has input into major decisions in this company, not just myself and my leadership team.
So when you say you have uncapped bonuses at the end of the year, how big can that bonus be relative to their salary?
We have a few employees who are making 5 times their base salary. Those are a couple of our high performers who have gone out and gotten some very niche lucrative accounts, but it's not uncommon for our employees they have a very healthy base salary, but at the same time, if they do grow their business significantly, they're participating in a share of those profits. But I think the largest off the top of my head is about 7.5 times their base salary. That's an extreme case, obviously. Typically what we like to see is, within 2 years, whether it be sales or operations, they're making 1.5 to 2 times their base salary.
Okay, so even the operations people can potentially double their salary in a good year.
Absolutely. And we have career pathing here. So we have 3 kind of distinct career paths within our sales and operations group. So each one of our accounts is assigned an account manager. So that's not the salesperson. That's someone who is assigned anywhere from our large accounts 1, and sometimes they get assistance. So give you an example, our top 5 accounts all have a dedicated account manager to that specific account. Our 3 largest accounts, they're actually an assistant or 2 assigned to that account manager who do nothing but the rating, the relationships, and communicating and conveying information. Furthermore, they're also watching out and predicting any issues that might take place during the life cycle of a shipment as well. So it's a full service named process. You're dealing with the same person every day, and it's not a salesperson, right?
Right.
A salesperson's job is to go out and recruit new clients and bring them into the fold. Account managers and people who operate are the ones who, they're good at that, and they're establishing a relationship, and we get to know the account. Oftentimes you see our competitors will rotate contacts in order to preserve the account because they're afraid their employees are going to leave. We have a different mentality. By keeping that same account manager, getting them ingrained with the account, making them a subject matter expert in a named account, that is the best way to, maximize performance, mitigate risk, and create a true partnership. And at the end of the day, by keeping that person there and making the investment in them with our client, it keeps us in check because it essentially says, hey, you've got to treat this employee well and pay them fairly and reward them for their performance. And it keeps it to market too. So it's a natural effect in keeping client service high, maximizing income, and keeping our employees happy too.
Right.
So our career tracks, we have people move from operations into account management. We have people move from account management back to operations, sales to account management. So we've got 3 different levels on the account management, operations, and sales side of the business. So there are defined career tracks as well.
Nice. And what's the retention rate? How much staff turnover do you have each year?
So we had a little under 20% this year.
Okay.
Which it seems typical. My goal ultimately, once we fine tune, and we've been growing a lot as well, would be to have about 10. I would like to have about 5 to 10. Seems like a more healthy rate, and that's a combination of involuntary and voluntary, by the way, because you're always going to have unforeseen instances where some things don't work out culturally. But 70% of the way, the background, the check marks and validation, someone's resume, so to speak, is, that's a kind of a check mark system. 70% of our decision base when we go decide to hire a candidate is based on culture. So, and the other thing that we differentiate ourselves in the business, we're not just going and hiring people from the industry, and we're not just hiring kids out of school. We will hire professionals who might have been in a service-based business-to-business environment before. That fits really well in our business because they're not bringing in potential bad habits or operations ideas from a commodity-based environment. Because we are so just-in-time and technology-focused, we really want to groom and develop our staff around our platform and our culture.
Right. Now, is the 20% staff turnover, is that typical in your industry, or is that considered low, average, high?
I would say it's a little bit below average. But, you've got some brokers out there that, kind of the theme is lots of people are bringing large classes out of school. I was in the private equity world for a while, and I saw many brokers out there, even trucking companies with their sales forces, they turn over 50% per year. We don't do that, and we also don't intermingle sales with operations too. To me and our business, it's a conflict of interest, right? Someone who's paid on revenue and someone who's measured on performance of moving things safely from point A to B on time. They're two different worlds, and so we really differentiate. That's why we have the account management, sales, and operations separated within our business.
Right. Yeah, makes sense. The second one, technology. Technology plays a big role in your business. Was all your tech that you're using to plan the shipments to maximize the timeliness of them and to minimize the cost? Now, was that technology all delivered in-house, or are there some relatively off-the-shelf software that you can acquire, that you can buy, that you just customize for your needs?
Actually, our TMS is solely proprietary. So everything that we do from an operation standpoint has been developed from the ground up. One of our managing partners who joined the company, joined the initial two partners in 2011. He's from the UK. He was an executive at one of the largest financial content firms. He had developed global commodity-based trading systems. When he saw an off-the-shelf system that they had when he joined the company, he was frustrated because it didn't do optimization. It was kind of, you had to squeeze square pegs in round holes, especially with the type of business they were developing. I mean, they initially started this business in perishable, highly sensitive perishable shipping, flowers and berries, right? So what he did is he started building out essentially a real-time, effectively like a trading platform almost. That's what he designed it around. And then from there, he developed it around the industry. So over the course of the last 8 years, it's been in development, or 7 years, it's been in development. We have, we have procurement systems. We actually, this year, are starting to offer a managed freight solution targeted to clients with under $50 million of spend. And the reason is that if you look at the market, lots of smaller and medium-sized businesses don't have optimal TMS systems or a TMS system at all. They're working with Excel, they're working with Access, which in our world is a manual process. So what we do is, if someone has over, what's called $1 million, $2 million of spend, we will provide them licenses to a standalone hosted TMS system that they can use to procure. They can even run bids, they can run spot quotes, they can run a load board, and actually go out and have that shipment. And we're not even requiring them to be exclusive with us. A lot of our competitors, larger competitors in the managed freight sector, they are going after the big fish, and they want exclusivity, right? What we're doing is we're saying, listen, we're transparent on our pricing. If we're making over X amount, we'll provide you a TMS. And you can use our competitors in that system. We're fine with that. We actually have 5 installs currently with 5 beta clients. These are longstanding clients of ours. It's worked well. We've used them to provide feedback to optimize that system. And so we're actually going to start monetizing the software this year. The monetization will be coming through freight, but it'll be driven by offering our technology for free. Or if they don't want to use us, we are willing to, we do have licensing options as well if they would prefer to pay. So
okay, so free if they continue doing business with you on the freight side, and if they choose not to do it on the freight side, you'll sell them a subscription to your platform.
That's correct.
All right, good, fantastic. For the third driver of your success, the transparency on that. Just to what degree of transparency are you providing? I mean, can they see things down to the, can they see when the truck was last had their tanks filled up? I mean, does it go down that low, or is it more bigger picture?
We don't. Unfortunately, the systems that the smaller and within our trucks, we can provide the same data that we see through. We use a third party within our own trucks. We use OmniTrax XRS, which tracks fuel, speed, etc. If they were operating on our own trucks, we'd be able to provide that data. But with our technology, we're typically relying on a third-party interface or an interface that we've built that goes essentially either gets installed to their cell phone or is sent back by a pinged tracking link every 30 minutes. So we would provide them the kind of the rule of thumb is what we see and know, our intelligence will be equal to your intelligence. So you tell us what you want, here's what we can provide, and we will give you that. The other key piece of transparency is costing and pricing. So once again, we're in a commodity market. Freight is a commodity market, right? And the one question I've been asked for years and years and years is, how is the driver shortage affecting you? And I've always said it doesn't matter. And the reason it doesn't matter, I mean, is it a problem? Is it driving up price? Yes. But does it matter to our business and your business? No. Because once again, it's a supply and demand environment. With less drivers, prices go up and things adapt accordingly. And drivers typically pull off the roads during certain times of the year. It is a seasonal business as well, which drive up prices. And if we have a transparent discussion about what the market's doing over the course of a year, we will, if you would like a committed flat rate to essentially hedge, we can provide you that. And we'll show you what we think our costs will be. We'll show you approximately what our markup would be compared to market and lock in a price from there. So essentially when we're doing pricing, we're giving the dial of transparency back to our clients. Tell us what you want to know, and we'll be more than happy to show it to you. It's not uncommon. I've sat in a couple client meetings here in the last few months. I'll pull up our TMS system and essentially show them costs on certain lanes. And our salespeople are trained to say, listen, here's what we think we're going to pay. Here's what we're going to make. But at the same time, if we slip into another market where it's less favorable to us, we want to have that same transparent conversation back with you too. I mean, that's the way it provides our clients the intelligence to keep their CFOs, their CFOs or their COOs abreast of market swings and changes that could potentially save on costs or potentially increase costs, right? Because if we're going back to a client and saying, listen, our prices, the commodity market has come down, that essentially keeps all their other carriers in check too.
Yep.
So
now, is there any particular data that your clients would like or that you would like that you're just not able to acquire right now, given your
I would say
platform?
Actually, the data, my initial answer would be exactly the data you suggested before. The fuel levels, and fuel levels are actually important, especially in the beverage industry, where they typically will max out the weight of a trailer. They want to see those tanks full when they come in. So those types of mechanical data, whether it be miles since last service on the tractor that's moving the shipment. So if essentially it's over 25,000 miles since it's last been serviced, there's a significantly increased chance that truck could break down, to fuel levels, as you mentioned before, to speed as well. Because keep in mind that if with the new ELD compliance being increased this year, we're feeling it, everyone's feeling it, trucking companies and drivers are still trying to figure out how it all works. We know, and an educated shipper would also know that as well. They might want to see how many hours has a driver been on a road, right? Are they over their hours? Are they in compliance? So I think compliance will be the biggest thing, and visibility into that. I see that as where transportation technology is going to go. And obviously with those ELD rules, it's really fueling the industry to move towards driverless technology or driver assist technologies. Our drivers have been somewhat resistant, and this is pretty much across the board because they think they're smarter than the computers. But at the end of the day, because you've got a reduction of drivers, because you've got increased technology development, et cetera, that is what I believe is going to drive driverless. You hear a lot of people saying driverless is going to be out in the next 3 to 5 years. It's going to be longer than that. But the driver assist technologies are becoming pretty intuitive. And then furthermore, the amount of data that shippers and trucking companies and third parties or brokers would like to see back from that equipment is increasing at a very fast rate. So to me, while we're a little bit limited today, within the next 3 or 4 years, I view that a lot of that tractor and driver data will be fed back in real time, and our clients are going to want to start seeing it. And that's how we're designing our infrastructure to be ahead of the curve on that.
Right. Now, I can see all these factors that you just provided, the having people that know what they're doing, having technology that gives you a better service, having transparency. I can see how your clients, your customers would be keen on using your service. Now, how do you help your sales team find new clients?
So we typically, what you see within a salesperson, they've typically had background or have what we prefer is we always ask the question, what industry are you passionate about, as an example, right? So we have, just as an example, one example off the top of my head, we have a gentleman in one of our remote offices that has had a passion for automotive his entire life. And then ironically enough, we have one of our branch managers, his whole background is working with tier one automotive suppliers within the supply chain realm. So when we hired this person, we actually married them up, and you want to talk about keeping an employee happy. They always wanted to sell into the automotive industry. They never knew how. Well, within transportation, everything needs to move practically in any commodity or tangible based industry. So we paired them up. And now we not only do we have a happy sales rep, we can train them around how we conduct or how supply chain works our way. And then furthermore, they get to follow their passion and sell within a vertical that they have passion about. So to me, someone who has passion about a certain vertical, that really drives where they sell. Now, we talk about how do we provide them? A lot of it, some of it is based on previous relationships. Some is based on previous relationships. Also, we provide a significant number of lead development tools. So LinkedIn, ironically enough, the Sales Navigator product has been very, very, very successful for us. Probably one of the most successful lead development tools I've ever seen in the market. So, the old days of, going to like a D&B database or, opening up the yellow pages, it's not specific anymore. Our most successful people who develop leads, we really hone in on do the research first, figure out who the client is, learn the business model before you make the phone call, right? Because you want to make sure A, it fits in our business model, and B, you're going to sound more educated to the client, which is obviously going to not only give us an image of credibility, but it's credibility that can actually be delivered on, because that's the way our business works.
Sounds like a bit of a slow and manual process.
It is, but at the same time, the metrics speak for themselves. When I was in the private equity world, I saw many, it's called, what they call dialing for dollars, right?
Yep.
Where you're required to make 150, 200 phone calls a day. I've got data to show, if someone who's making 25 research smart calls a day compared to 150 to 200 volume calls is more successful and delivers not only more accounts, but they get deeper into those accounts and develop long-term relationships. And that's what's key here. We're not just trying to get our next shipment. We're trying to develop a relationship. It sounds slow and steady, but as we started that process, I came into the business in late 2016, officially became president and CEO second week of 2017. When we were running about 43 million. And when we did that, we adapted the process, and the company culture was already that way as well. It took a little bit of time from 2017 through 2018 to get it. But after that year's cycle, those sales cycles are churning, and now we're seeing the benefits of those, because the awards we're getting, with a small client, it's not just one shipment a week. Let's say they ship 10. It's a small client. They ship, let's call it 10 shipments a month. We're getting 5 or 10 of those shipments, not just one a month, right? That's what we're aiming for. We want to create a partnership, not just trying to get a shipment to get our volume up for the day.
Right. Okay. And now, what about on the marketing side? Do you do anything to make it easier on your sales team so that when they reach out to their targets, the ones that they research, they're going to go, oh, yeah, I've heard about Mid-America before. What do you guys do there?
It's interesting you mentioned that. If I had to identify an area of development for our company, I would say it's marketing. Obviously, we're redoing our website and our positioning this year, and our social media has been a little bit slow, but we brought in one of the executives that we brought in this year. She's got a kind of a bifold portfolio of recruiting and training and brand development. That's her background, which is an interesting background because usually you never see those two together. So she just started a couple months ago. She's developed a full-scale marketing plan that's going to be rolled out in 2019. Essentially, we're going to be doing a I wouldn't call it a rebranding, but a repositioning of how we sell the market, right? Because when we're on the phone with our clients, we're saying one thing, but the way we portrayed that to the market is separate. Furthermore, we've done a lot of, so public service has been an avenue for us. to get our name out in the market. So we pick our team picks one need-based event of a year. This past year, it was the California wildfires. The year prior to that was Hurricane Harvey. And essentially, we reach out to all of our clients and our potential clients to say, we'll provide free transportation. So we do it a little bit more from an ethical standpoint than a sales standpoint right now. But we are investing dollars back into social media development. We see that as the largest, one of the largest, or the fastest growing paths to lead development. And then also getting involved with networking and trade shows too. The return on advertising in this market is lower, and we don't have enough scale at this point to invest in a full-scale advertising campaign. So we're going to target social media, networking, targeted networking, and then some trade shows, which have seen a resurgence here in the last 3 or 4 years.
Right. Now, I think part of the challenge, just from what you shared with me, is that you work with lots of different verticals. How many different verticals do you think your company has been involved in over the past year?
So 90% of our revenue comes out of 5 verticals. So we can lump perishable food, including produce, into one, automotive, pharmaceuticals, retail, and then automotive. So did I hit automotive? Yeah, those are the 5 top that hit the 90% of our revenue. The rest is more. So typically, and keep in mind we have 7 offices now. So each one of those offices typically specializes in a vertical, and then our largest national accounts are centralized in our Charlotte base, our Enterprise Operations Center, which is based in Charlotte, North Carolina. So each one of those offices typically carries a specialty within a vertical, and that's naturally happened over time. The other filler stuff has been longer-based relationships or new accounts that have been developed.
Right. So from a marketing perspective, you talk about a number of verticals, right? Perishable foods, produce, auto, pharmaceutical, retail, and I imagine even within that space there are striations, right? Different kinds of perishable foods, different parts of the auto supply chain. On the pharma side, I imagine depends on where you are in the supply chain.
Yeah, and here I'll give you an example. So and you can break that out within. It's interesting because you can apply the principles of how we were founded, i.e. perishable just-in-time shipping, to each one of those verticals we specialize in, right? So there are degrees of perishability. You're absolutely right. And also within produce and some of the perishable products, they're highly cyclical. We get wild swings in the market, right? Versus automotive is typically non-cyclical unless they have a plant rework for a couple months, but usually it's pretty much steady state across. The key is when we started with the business, when we had $43 million as a highly cyclical business, our goal is to make that less cyclical as possible so we have stability throughout the year, as an example.
Right. Now, will you have a different marketing message for each of the verticals?
It all goes back to one core message, and that is that technology drives just-in-time shipping, and by getting the scale and depth within, call it the more premium or higher margin-based shipments, the more sensitive shipments, we have enough scale to essentially be able to offer that technology-driven solutions back to those less sensitive verticals. So our marketing hasn't, what we can identify, and while we train specific people on specific verticals, it all comes back to one common message. Everyone's looking for the same thing. They want to see the example, the case studies, the white papers, and the examples that feed back to their individual industry. So from a marketing standpoint, have we broken it out by industry? Not publicly, or not from that space, but the overall theme has worked well for us. As we grow and we get more scale and have the ability to invest more in marketing dollars, we'll do so. But going back to our core theme and applying a white paper. I mean, listen, we got our first automotive account by walking through a highly perishable supply chain back to automotive and actually built in the KPIs that an automotive industry looks at, we could tie directly back to a highly perishable shipment. And it has equal consequences back and forth. And I mean, that's the key. If you can parlay that back in, that's what opened the doors to that industry. So I call it it's not a typical approach, but it worked well. And from a service standpoint, we delivered.
Yeah. And at the same time, I find that having new ideas from other industries and considering them for your own, especially if your competition isn't doing it, can really have huge benefits, right? Because they're not everyone is going after the same thing. You're doing something different, right? It not only does it, if you're on the marketing side, not only does it make you stand out, but at the same time, it means that you're not all going after the same fish, right? You're fishing in a different part of the pond where there are a lot more fish available, and it just makes sense to consider different ways of attacking a problem.
100%. And the other thing that, you sense in industries, I mean, this is a highly, highly competitive business. 550,000 registered trucking companies. I think there's something like around 50,000 brokers in the U.S. And, you've got, hosts of various pieces of technology. Everyone has kind of this standard code. They get old habits die hard, right? And when you repeat the same things over and over, rather than trying to find a more creative solution or do something different, you're just a commodity player in the market. So I think naturally that's kind of why we've done that from a marketing and positioning standpoint, is let us try to figure out a more creative way that can deliver value to your bottom line, rather than just moving something you like us and send it to us when our price is right? It's right. It's a different approach.
3 last questions for you, Mark.
Sure.
Say one of your ideal clients, ideal prospects, someone that you work with, they're driving down the freeway at 70 miles per hour, and they see a Mid-America Logistics billboard, right? And they're only going to see it for 5 seconds as they're cruising by. What message do you want on that billboard?
Quality, professionalism, and transparency. And I would also put just in time in there too. So if it hits those 4 things, we deliver shipments on time. We provide transparent data. We do so professionally, and we do so with integrity. I would take those four things that would need to. I would like to have continue.
Right. Does your company have a slogan, a phrase, a motto along those lines? So
if you go on our website, we publish our mission, value. We put our mission, vision, and value statement. The interesting part of that development, we just did it close to a year ago. We literally picked a lottery of staff members, locked them into a room for a full day, and said, what does this company mean to you, and where do you see this company going based on the message, your training, your development, et cetera. They came up with those. So we had things in there such as like modern, poised, and you can go on the website to see those. And those values really reign true in everything this company does. Everyone in our company knows our mission, vision, and values. They proudly put it as the first 2 slides in any presentation, as an example. It's not to say we've made it infectious in a good way, in a positive way across this company, because those 5 words truly drive everything we do and how we conduct business and define the clients we want to work with.
Right, for sure. 2 more questions for you. Who are your ideal customers? I know you talked about it a bit, but maybe you can recap it again. And what's the best way for them to reach you?
Okay. Our ideal clients are ones that are not shopping on a commodity price basis, are looking for long-term relationships, whether it be in a large scale or a bid. In other words, we will participate in bids and bid on lanes that we know we are subject matter experts and can deliver on. With transparent pricing, and we will commit to a price for a full year. You'll never have to worry about us. So anyone who's bid-based will be with time-sensitive shipments who want transparency and consistency in pricing, down to that small, medium-sized client who's looking for a partner who's going to be dealing with the same person every day who gets to know your business. Within that realm, I can tell you the verticals that we've been very successful in: perishable food, automotive, manufacturing, retail, and then also one area that we probably haven't is just general distribution, imports and essentially blowing out distribution. That's been an area which we've been looking to expand into. While it's been more of a commodity-based market, which is why, and less synergetic because our retail vertical is relatively new. but I see that as the largest growth opportunity walking into 2019 and 2020, because as we're starting to develop synergies within our kind of 5 core verticals. So, we're looking for clients. The profile is not necessarily industry-based as much as it is, we don't want to be, one of 100 people that you're going to, just blow out rates to and the lowest person wins. We want to be the person that you partner with, both either on a contractual basis or on a spot basis that, you want to know what you're getting and want transparency.
Right. You want to be a partner. You don't want to be just a simple vendor.
Exactly. And, people have asked me all the time, or you provide a constructive criticism to say, well, you're not, you alluded to in your questions, like, how do you develop business? And, do you think that's a slower way to get business? Slow and steady is consistent and reliable, and that's building a foundation rather than just throwing spaghetti at a wall and hoping stuff sticks. That's not a way to build a long-term business that develops value for clients and equity value for shareholders.
Yeah. It's also kind of, when you mentioned the slow and steady, kind of reminds me of a I remember a book I was reading about golf, right? About how you want to learn how to do your swing slow and steady at the beginning. And then as you get proficient, well, then you start speeding it up, right? And try to maintain that efficiency. You don't want to go full speed right off the bat.
I mean, our people drive this business at the end of the day, right? And, one thing that I take a lot of pride in, and I've seen a lot of different transportation companies from the private equity side, is this is the first company I walked into where I saw the diversity I did. We have 50% males, 50% females in a very male-dominated industry, right? We have people from all walks of life who speak natively multiple languages. I think we've got 14 or 15 different languages spoken naturally in-house. We have people from, who were born in other countries to coming from rural areas to highly urban areas. I mean, when you walk in this business, lots of people are surprised and they're like, this is a transportation company. And one thing that I've learned here is diversity also within the cycle. And diversity, I'm not just talking about sex, race, educational background. It's a combination of everything. Diversity can come in all forms. And when I meet people here, I mean, I see the people we're hiring, the people who are attracted to coming to this business. It's really a cornucopia of different backgrounds, different exposures, both on the business and personal side. It's really neat, actually, and I'm convinced. Although it's difficult to measure that, I'm convinced that's been a major driver to our talent and in turn our growth here in the last 4 years.
I mean, at the very least, having a diverse employee base, I mean, you just get different ideas and different perspectives, right?
100%, because there's so many, when you go into a lot of larger trucking companies, logistics companies, you see the backgrounds that people all go switch between the same large ones, right? And it's the same ideas, the same philosophies, and not to say it's stale, but this is an industry that changes slow and is very manual and very antiquated in a lot of different ways. And by bringing in some new perspectives with tied in, and the key is we have blends of industry experience, but you see a lot of these technology startups or these app startups, and they can't figure out why they're not getting traction in the market. It's like, well, they're just going strictly outside the market, right? We've got a nice balance of industry experience and non-industry experience plus diversity to bring those ideas in. And, so it's kind of a checks and balance on the whole thing.
Right. Now, what's the best way for your ideal clients to contact your firm?
Yep. Couple different ways. They can write email is contact@midamlogistics.com. They can call our main line, which is 636-226-4770. Those are the two different ways they can get in contact with us.
All right. Fantastic. Thanks so much for joining us today, Mark, and sharing how you accelerated your company's high-value sales.
I appreciate it. Thank you so much.
We've been speaking with Mark Kummer, the president of Mid-America Logistics, about his company's rapid growth. For interviews with other fast-growing, high-value sales companies, or to learn how we can accelerate your firm's high-value sales through automation, visit eversprint.com.